On this episode of China Unscripted, the Chinese Communist Party is committing genocide in Xinjiang. We talk today to a man who survived the concentration camps. Welcome to China Unscripted. I'm Chris Chappell.
I'm Shelley Zhang.
And I'm Matt Gnezda.
And joining us today is Abduweli Ayup, a writer, linguist, and Uyghur activist and president of the Uyghur Help Organization. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So I think it's really hard for Americans to kind of picture what life is like in Xinjiang. Not the concentration camps themselves, but just daily life for Uyghurs in Xinjiang. Can you tell us a little bit about what that's like and how your story began?
Let's start like this. For example, that in the morning, when you go out from your home, the first thing you have to do, you show your ID card. So some cities every 200 meters, some cities every 500 meters, there is a checkpoint. You have to show your ID card. Like for me, in the morning, from my home to the place I'm going to work, I have to show 17 times of my ID card. Sometimes I feel that they already know me, who am I, and what I'm going to do, and they know. And I asked that, why are you doing? They said, this is the rule. This is life should be. And this is the life for everybody. But at the end, that you feel, if you go somewhere without a checkpoint, without surveillance camera, you feel strange. Wow, why we don't have the checkpoints and why we don't have surveillance? Because you already get used to those life, those things. Yeah, it's the life of under surveillance in anywhere and under questioning from the police and under spying on the surveillance camera.
So are you always aware that you're being watched? Like in your day-to-day life, do you have this awareness?
Yes, that is. After I came to Turkey, and I feel that somebody always watching on me. And sometimes somebody knocked the door, without my knowledge, I feel very nervous because it could be the police. It is the life. At night, people sleep with the clothes. Why? Because you should be ready 24 hours if police came.
So I imagine you're not sleeping very well.
Yeah. That's true.
And there's also the case of Han Chinese coming and staying with Uyghur families, sort of they call them big brothers or sisters.
Yeah, it is since 2014 November, this started. You should have Han Chinese relative, especially 2017. It's systematically appointed to your home, and your Han Chinese relative is another. You have a camera outside, but at home, you don't have camera. Your Han Chinese relative is another camera, watching you. What are you doing?
You said this kind of started with the relatives coming in 2014. So, the surveillance and everything, was that also about when it started, 2014?
Actually, surveillance started after July 5th. We have a July 5th demonstration in 2009. And during the demonstration, government, maybe they found out that they couldn't arrest enough Uyghurs. And after that, the camera installed every city. Before, we have the camera in Urumqi and some major cities. And after July 5th, we have camera every city, every county, every town. Especially in Kashgar, Urumqi, and Gulja, we have three big major cities. And we have a camera at the time per 500 meters at the street. And after 2014, November, it's intensified. like every street and like every neighborhood. And another thing that like Chinese government called it Wangge Hua Guali in Chinese. It means that like network, mm, like categorizing, not categorizing. It's like fencizing. Like every village should be surrounded by fence, and every neighborhood should be surrounded by wall. And at that time, like people feel very angry because you have to go for a long way to go out because like the wall surrounded you and you have to go to street. You have to pass the police. You have to go for a long because there is no bus between from your home to the gate. So you have to walk along, and people like always complain that why they have to walk for a long time to go to bus or go to street. Why it's happening like this? There is a red way, there is a green way, and every street and every like checkpoints, there's a red way, there's a green way. Red way is Uyghur minority, and green way is for Han Chinese majority. And people always call them that they are green, we are red. That's why we pass different way because of we have a different ethnic background. And Uyghur district always surrounded with the wall, and Han Chinese district is open. That at the time another thing happened that Uyghur began to move to Chinese city, like Chinese provinces, especially at the time most people went Xi'an and Shanghai and Beijing. It's because of like people always surrounded by wall and the checkpoints and the police and like a spying camera, and that's people feel oppressed, and some of them move to the like those Chinese cities. That's because of this.
So it's a very segregated society.
Yes, it is segregated society. Like at that time, I talked to my Han Chinese friends, and you guys always promote ethnic unity, but we cannot unite together, and we cannot go the same way. You guys go the green way, and we go the red way, and you guys will not stop at the checkpoint, and we always stop at the checkpoint. How can we be united? How can we? Ethnic unity is beautiful term, but the problem is if we cannot go the same way, if we cannot have the same treatment, how can we feel we are the same?
Now, I find it interesting that you refer to your Han Chinese friends. Considering the kind of oppression the Uyghurs are facing in Xinjiang, I imagine there's a lot of ethnic tension there. I'm amazed that you can still refer to Han Chinese as your friends.
Yes, of course, because there is a policy, but during like in the policy, some of them implementing the policy, some of them benefiting the policy, but some of them still feel angry at the policy because of this policy they cannot live securely, they cannot live safely. They feel that it's not the way, it's not the right thing to do.
Han Chinese are feeling this way?
Yeah, yeah. Especially the businessmen, because they talk to me that the government, the exact word is government can protect me like from the morning from 8 until 5. After that, police go home, and who can protect us? The government cannot protect us 24 hours, and we are living with the Uyghur community here, and we are having business here. And if, like in Kashgar, 90% are Uyghurs, if Uyghur feel angry, feel resentful against us, who can protect us after this working hour? They talk to me. It's impossible. And another, I have friends who had the business, and I have another friend who is Han Chinese but Muslim. He got arrested. His name is Malik, and he said that it's not because he's having a youth hostel, and his main customers are foreigners, like the people from Western countries. And he said, I lost my business because of my youth hostel is in the Uyghur neighborhood, and because of his youth hostel is in the Uyghur neighborhood, and his youth hostel also surrounded with the wall, and then his business affected because like tourists cannot go very freely, and they have to show their ID card, and they said, what's the problem? They want to live in Uyghur community because they want to enjoy Uyghur culture. But the problem is because of my youth hostel in Uyghur neighborhood, it's surrounded by the wall and always with the checkpoints and surveillance camera. They will not come. And I lost my business here.
Well, speaking of Uyghur culture, as I understand, it's getting incredibly difficult for Uyghur culture to exist in Xinjiang, from traditional neighborhoods being physically torn down to bans on traditional Uyghur practices. How difficult is it to maintain the Uyghur culture in Xinjiang right now?
No, it is really hard to live with any culture except Han Chinese. Like now, Uyghur forced to live more Chinese than ordinary Chinese. For example, that in I have lived in Chinese provinces for 11 years, and I know what Chinese culture is. But the problem is, like Chinese in Chinese provinces, they don't practice traditional Chinese culture. They are living in their modern life, most of them. But in Uyghur region, people forced to practice traditional Chinese culture. Nobody practice anymore. For example, that like the students, when teacher come into the classroom, the students should bow to him as a Chinese way, like this. Like, it's absurd because the Chinese don't practice this culture in Shanghai and Beijing. And another thing that like traditional culture showed to the parents, but Uyghur will not, and they force Uyghur to bow their parents. And another third that like we only can see it from the movie, like where clothes very Chinese. It's like maybe maybe years ago, like Uyghur forced to wear that kind of clothes. Even Chinese don't wear. So the problem is Uyghur are not practicing their culture, not enjoying their culture. They are practicing the culture Han Chinese are not practicing anymore. And like Chinese government forced Uyghur live as Chinese, but not as the modern Chinese, live as the ancient Chinese. It's unacceptable. Another thing that it's not useful and it's not practical anymore.
Well, as I understand it, it was this assault on Uyghur culture that sort of motivated you to actually move back to Xinjiang to teach a Uyghur kindergarten. Can you tell us a bit about why you did that?
Yeah, I was a university professor in a Chinese university in Gansu provinces. After I had a baby, and I think that I should, if I stay in the Chinese province, I cannot teach my kid Uyghur because all of them are Chinese. I cannot like teach him very well. And because of this, I moved back to my hometown, Urumqi. And then I found that there's no Uyghur kindergarten. All of the kindergarten are Han Chinese kindergarten. And it shocked me because in my imagination, it's Uyghur Autonomous Region, so-called. And the Uyghur should be official position. Like Uyghur and Han Chinese should be official position. And we should have Uyghur kindergarten. But I found out there is no. And this is another thing that government encourage Han Chinese businessmen to have a kindergarten because government-owned kindergarten are not enough. And at that time, I think that can we try to have a kindergarten as Han Chinese businessmen are doing? And if it's beneficial, if it's like possible for because at the time, I believe that I'm holding Chinese ID card. and I'm a Chinese citizen. So even Uyghur afraid of asking this question, I decided that I should ask this question. I'm Chinese citizen and I'm holding Chinese ID card. I should ask that should I have a chance to have a kindergarten as Chinese like businessmen do? And for example, I know that Chinese kindergarten in Suzhou, in Shanghai, they have international kindergarten. Like we teach English and Chinese. And I talk to my friends and I like write the petition to the government that can we have a kindergarten like that, keep our language, Uyghur, and to teach English and teach Chinese at the same time. And can we do this? We applied for the government, the Urumqi municipality, but rejected that. They rejected. Look, you shouldn't have a mother language kindergarten. Like you should have a Chinese only. And then we started our campaign that it's like first we promoted that it's illegal. Yes, it's depending on Chinese constitution, like provision 4, it's illegal. Depending on Chinese like law of education, it's illegal. And I said, it is illegal. It's our legal rights to have Uyghur at the kindergarten and teach Uyghur kids in Uyghur. It's our legal right. Why we couldn't have? We should like municipality rejected us. I asked them, we need official paper. We will not allow Uyghur kindergarten. You should say this. You should write on the paper and show us. You shouldn't say this. You shouldn't force us to give up. You shouldn't call the police. Just give us the paper. Uyghur is illegal in Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. After we have this answer, we will stop. But if you say it's legal, it's constitutional, we will not stop. You change the constitution first, or you change your decision second. Without changing your constitution, without changing your law, you cannot change your decision, and it's impossible. You cannot change our mind because we believe we are Chinese citizens and we are holding Chinese ID card, so we have the same right as Han Chinese have.
So how did the Chinese government take your protesting?
Actually, at that time, they forced us to do this. Because if like Chinese at the time, Urumqi municipality allow us to have a kindergarten, there is no problem. You can have kindergarten, I can teach my kids Uyghur, and it's win-win situation actually. Yeah, you can win Uyghur's heart, and we can win our mother language. Why not?
So was it the kindergarten issue that is what got you sentenced to one of these concentration camps?
Yes, that is. After I got arrested, I found out something. Like as a Uyghur, I always think that yes, there is oppression before, and it has been going on, and I always think that there is a misunderstanding between the Uyghur people and the government. Like there is a misunderstanding. And when I got arrested, I found that they like made mistakes. They will release me in a few days. I have this idea that no, it will not happen. But the problem is after I got arrested, they accused me 3 things. One, you are CIA agent. Like accused me as a CIA agent. Yeah. And the second, separatist, because of they accused me as a CIA agent because of I was supported by Ford Foundation. When I had my master's degree in the US, I supported by Ford Foundation. I applied Ford Foundation's office in Beijing. It is a legal foundation in China at that time. Like we have more than 40 Ford fellows. Only 4 of us are Uyghur. Others are Han Chinese. They are a majority. I am minority. And if I selected by like CIA, what happened to other 36 Han Chinese? Because of their Han Chinese, they are not selected by CIA. Yeah, I'll ask this question. And the number two, I was accused of being separatist. And the reason is the mother language issue is sensitive issue. It lead Bangladesh as an independent country. It's 1970s, 1971, I think. Like there is a demonstration in Dhaka, and the students want their mother language rights. And after that, Bangladesh became an independent country. They make this example that this issue is not simple like issue, and your hidden aim is to build a country for Uyghurs. I said, no, I just want to build a kindergarten for kids, not the country for Uyghurs. Oh my God, it's a big concept, and it's for me, it's impossible to build a country for people like the guy like me have a kindergarten. And I said, no. And the third, overthrow the government.
Whoa. Okay.
Oh, I think it's a big, like China is very big country, and if I can overthrow the Chinese government, and it's very like it's hard to imagine, and like yeah, this kind of accusation, and the like questioning is always about this, like why do you go to the United States, and who pick you up from the airport, and who is the first American you meet, and this kind of bullshit questions, like actually, yeah, because like I went to the United States, I take the taxi, and I go to school, and there's nobody except me, and like there's no CIE appointment, something like that. Just went to school and study, and then finish my degree and go back. That's the simple story. But in their imagination, I'm ideal enemy of the country, like to lead Uyghurs independent and the separatist movement, something like that. They want to prove this because of this like impossible proving. They tortured me, and like I said, yeah, you can kill me. You can kill me, but you cannot prove it because it's false imagination. I'm your enemy in your imagination, not in reality. You can electricize me, and you can torture me, and you can hang me, and you can beat me. It's okay, but the problem is there is no any evidence. If I have, I will tell you. I will tell you because I want to have this life. Yeah, I want to live as a human being, and I want to live as a dignity. And why are you doing this? I don't have any evidence to tell you to prove that I am a separatist. This kindergarten is just a kindergarten for kids. And why I'm going to have this kindergarten? Because kindergarten, the kids are innocent. They are angel for me. I love kids, and I love my kids, and I love Uyghur kids, and I love every kids in the world. Why are you accusing this as a separatist?
I mean, this so perfectly sums up the Chinese Communist Party to me. Like, you try to start a kindergarten, they send you to a concentration camp.
For being part of the CIA. And then there's no way you can prove that you're not part of the CIA because they're convinced that you are part of the CIA.
Oh my gosh.
Abduweli, when you said earlier before you got arrested that you thought it was just a misunderstanding, like you thought that like the problems that were happening in Xinjiang were a misunderstanding, like what did you think that misunderstanding was?
Misunderstanding, I always like, because of I was a university professor, and I always think that because of Chinese government could not hire enough Uyghur experts who can speak Uyghur, who can understand Uyghur culture, and there is no enough experts, there is no enough study about Uyghur. So government's policy is like they implement the wrong policy. They produce the wrong policy. If like government understand enough Uyghur, if we have enough Uyghur experts, if like for us as a Uyghur scholar, if we can tell real Uyghur problem to the government and provide some solution, and government will listen to us. This is my naive idea as a scholar, because I live in Chinese provinces. We have done in Chinese provinces, like for example, that I surveyed the Uyghur Muslim in Lanzhou. We solved some problem after our study, and we provided to the government officials, and the problem solved. And like in my imagination, after I go back to my hometown Urumqi, and I can solve the problem as I did in Lanzhou, in Chinese problem, because I have done this in Lanzhou. And but after I come back, it like China said like our Uyghur hometown is a part of China, but they implement different policy. They implement the law with different way, treat people with different way. And I think this is the misunderstanding, because of like Chinese government made mistakes, are making mistakes because of there is no enough study on Uyghur. There is no enough experts to explain what's happening. This is my imagination. This is my feeling before. Yeah.
You know, I've heard that from a lot of different Chinese dissidents. The idea that like, oh, there must be some kind of misunderstanding. This can't possibly be what's happening. And then
It is what's happening.
it is what's happening.
Yeah.
So what are these concentration camps like?
First of all, it is indoctrination camp. The aim, the goal is not killing people or toxicizing people. It's indoctrination camp. The first of all, I can tell you the first what the prisoners, what the detainees face. The first, they ruin your dignity, ask you turn it put off your old clothes, ask you stand, and ask you to walk back and forth, and bow, and this is like it's in front of the others, in front of other. Like at the time, I faced this about 20 prisoners and other 4 prison guards. If it's for checking, you can check alone. The first thing is ruin your dignity. Like you are here, you are nobody. You have to listen whatever we tell you, whatever we instruct you. This is the first. Second, in the cell, in the so-called classroom, a dormitory so-called, there is no privacy. For example, that 3 cameras, 24 hours watching you, and at night the light is on, and when you're walking, camera is just focusing on you and take a picture like this. Just you can hear this, and your voice being recorded there. It means that you don't have a privacy. And I feel very first night I feel very embarrassed, because when I'm when I want to sleep, I need to go to toilet, but the camera just focused to me and take a picture, and I think, what's going on here? I'm just going to toilet, and why are you taking picture of this? And I know somebody is watching. Because of taking picture, I feel somebody is watching. So I feel very embarrassed. Yes, I'm doing my toilet. Yeah. So the first of all, that ruin your dignity, and then ask you to feel that already you are under control, you are under custody, you are under you are there open with your physically or mentally. The problem is the second. There's a propaganda. Propaganda started after few days and after tomorrow, and then the classroom. The classroom, you there is teacher and the students are separated, there is a bar between teacher and the student, and the two armed police SWAT in Chinese. It's just standing two sides of the teacher, and then the like so-called teaching started. Like I still remember that yeah, it's very bad that like about Uyghur culture. It's re-explaining Uyghur culture. Like Uyghur culture sexualized. For example, that like the teacher. I remember very clearly that Uyghur had depending on Uyghur history, Uyghur had 40 days of wedding. Uyghur wedding is 40 days. And do you know why it's 40 days? You just listen. And then because of its group sex.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wedding 40 days, it means group sex. They are doing this. It means that Uyghur culture is sexually very open. Uyghur culture is very open society. And from this perspective, Chinese culture is very conservative. Uyghur is open. And at the time, I thought that, what are you talking about? And like he said, another topic that about Uyghur lady. Uyghur lady is open. Like Uyghur lady have a 40 before they get married. Uyghur braid their hair. Uyghur ladies 40 times. It explained that one Uyghur lady can have with 40 male partner. Because of Uyghur lady can braid their hair 40.
One for each guy.
Yeah. And what are you talking about? Like it means that during the classroom, just insult you that just insulted. This is Uyghur. You are thinking about something different, your imagination, but this is the Uyghur culture. You are not in your thinking. The Uyghur is like this. Like teach you Uyghur. Uyghur is this. And another very interesting example that about history. Uyghur is not native to Xinjiang. They are from Mongolian. The Uyghurs' ancestors are Mongolian. What? But you have to listen. You have to listen to it. And Uyghur is not. And after that, there is a law. Law said that before Uyghur have this kind of group sex and this kind of feudal. So we have the law to consent to organize Uyghur culture with the modern way. Without law, Uyghur have sexual diseases and infectious diseases. This law implemented because of this put Uyghur culture in the right way, in the push Uyghur culture to the right direction. That's why we have this law.
So basically, they're trying to convince people that the Uyghur culture is bad, and it's the Chinese Communist Party that made everything great. They're telling you this in a concentration camp that you were in because you started kindergarten.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Uyghur culture is bad. Uyghur culture is backward. Uyghur culture is what are you practicing is wrong. And this is the way you have to follow. This is the right way. Always there's a a screen showed that always this is new Kashgar, this is old Kashgar, this is new Urumqi, this is old Urumqi, and this is new Uyghur, this is old Uyghur.
And I imagine anyone who criticizes what they're being told, I bet that doesn't go well for them.
Oh, of course, the camera always watching you. You shouldn't feel bad, because if you feel bad, the camera will find. So you have to smile. You have to always say yes, it is, because you know the camera is watching you. The big brother is watching you.
Wow.
At that time, first I thought that, what are they doing? And then I thought, yeah, they are testing you. In my mind, I think they are testing you, actually. What's your feeling? Because the camera are there. They're testing you. And then, depending on the test, and they categorize it. Dangerous one, and like really dangerous one, and the normal dangerous one, and less dangerous one. 3 categories.
You're always dangerous. It's just how dangerous you are. Yeah.
Of course.
So what do they do to people who don't want to play along with this little game?
It is impossible. It is impossible to reject, or it is impossible to avoid this game. You have to follow. You have to. I followed, for example. Yeah, it's right. Yeah. And sometimes I ask questions, further questions. Yeah, maybe, Uyghur is. You're talking about Uyghur are originated from Mongol. I think Uyghur originated from Chinese, Han Chinese.
I bet they love that.
Yeah, let them feel better. Let them feel happy.
Do you think that the brainwashing worked on people?
We cannot say. From my observation, it not worked on people as Chinese government expected. For example, that the people will not feel that their culture backward, their culture primitive or something like that, but they feel that they are always under control. They are always under under surveillance, and for example, in the concentration camp, you always talk, oh, Chinese government is good, and the Chinese Communist Party is great, and this kind of conversation you can hear outside also, because of people get used to it inside. And for example, that in Uyghur, we said after you sneezing, we said, God bless you. It's common word for Uyghur. And now Uyghurs say, just bless you. And then after somebody died, we said, God give him peace. But now we said just the peace, not the God this word. And before, Uyghur get married and pray God to have a better life. But now, Communist Party would have a good future. Allow them to have a good future. This kind of words. And I'm a linguist. Your word create your identity. Your word create your personality. It will influence. But I don't have enough evidence how this concentration camp created the new Uyghur. But I always watch a Uyghur movie, Chinese TikTok or something. I found that Uyghur always talk that they are in concentration camp. Even they are in the movie, even they are in the stage. You can feel that they are because I have stayed there, so I know what's the conversation, what's the language looks like. So I found out that it's the same. The language changes because of the oppression, because of this concentration camp, because of the indoctrination.
So how did you get out of the concentration camp and then out of Xinjiang?
I have never, because first of all, there is no any evidence. I'm not the CIA agent. I went to the US last year, and at the time, I just want to call CIA that, hey guys, you put me in danger, and you should you should say something to me. But I didn't. I didn't have time to call them, and because there is no any evidence that 3 accusations are baseless. And they forced me to accept so-called my crime, I have never. I said, no, 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 because I have done nothing. And like, even, for example, sometimes as like human being, during the torture, you should think that, oh, how can I find the evidence? Yes, just make up some evidence and just wanna live. I wanna live. It's enough for me. But it's hard to find the evidence. It's hard to make up some evidence because there is no evidence. I tried. After 3 months, any kind of torture is useless. It's my personal experience. After 3 months, it's okay. You can get used to it. For example, that like electricide, only 20 minutes. If you bear with 20 minutes, it's okay. Because one electric stick, after 20 minutes, they have to charge. And that charging takes time. You cannot charge in a few minutes. And then you can take a rest. And about like beating, after your body frozen, you cannot feel. You cannot feel anymore. And after you wash it with the water and feel it a lot, it will be better. And you can find some solution to deal with it, to like help yourself. After 3 months, it's okay. You can learn a lot from these torture, and like it is just like part of your life, because it is a life. It's not only you being tortured. Yet, if we are living in the free world, it's hard to imagine. But if you live with those guys, like like one day somebody came with the electricized, another with the torture or something, because like you cannot feel that it is something. You cannot expect something different because it is there. It is the place you get tortured, you get raped, and you get electricized. It's the place. And what do you expect? And they are the prison guards and the interrogators, and it's their behavior. And how do you expect something different? It is like this. It is a system. And for example, you are in toilet and you want to feel perfume. It's impossible. It is a toilet. Yes, Chinese concentration camp is a toilet. And you have to get used with the flavor of the toilet. That's the way. So yeah, first think that, yeah, it is like this place, but I cannot become toilet paper. Yes, this is the toilet. This is a dirty place, but I am not toilet paper. I am human being.
And so it doesn't matter whether or not you play their little mind games in the camps. Basically, whether you behave or not, everyone is getting tortured, everyone's getting electrocuted, everyone's getting some kind of sexual abuse. That's just across the board.
Yeah. Somebody is heavier, somebody is lighter, and somebody is everyday. Like I tortured almost 6 months from the August until December, and somebody is longer than that, and somebody is shorter than that, and somebody is everyday, somebody is like after a few days, something like that. So like, but I didn't expect different, because my uncle stayed in prison 20 years, and my mother told me that he is my mother's older brother. My mother told me. So it's not new. Like everything happened to Uyghurs. Like for example, that my father, he is a high school teacher. He was a high school teacher, and he sent to labor camp in 1967, and he feeded pig. As a Uyghur, he feeded pig. He told me this. So, like for somebody who never experienced this life, it's unimaginable. How can Uyghur bear with this? And for us, for example, especially for me, I have read the articles about like Uyghur intellectuals and Uyghur scholars' experience during the Cultural Revolution. And I heard my mother told me about my uncle Asa Ahmed. He was like intellectuals, and like my uncle is the first one who have a modern school in my village, modern Western style school in my village. He was the first one in our village. He was the director of the school, and like our family proud of him. And like my mother always mentioned that, like, yes, he experienced that life, but I want to tell you something: never betray yourself. You are human being. You are my son. Never betray yourself. It's you. Keep your dignity. Keep your honor. You are my son. Yeah. Yeah. I thought like very interesting that my my grandpa's father died in the concentration camp in 1937. It is the first concentration camp in our hometown. My grandpa's father, he was at the time participated the revolution, and because of this, he put in concentration camp and he died there. He died the same place I was put in prison. It's the same place, exact the same place.
Wow.
Ludowan detention center. That's the place my grandpa's father died there. And then my uncle, my mother's brother, he stayed in the camp for 20 years. My father stayed in labor camp, feed pig, as a high school teacher before. And then, so for us, something is repeating. So for us, it's not new, but like I wonder when we have ending, when we have this ending, like why it's always repeating the same circle? Why we have this?
Well, so what do you think of the international response to the persecution of the Uyghurs?
Recently, I read a lot about concentration camp and about like Nazi Germany. And at that time, some media had done a great job. At that time, I heard that BBC reported and about Nazi Germ about like Nazi about this. And this time also, media journalists are doing great job. And civil organization are keeping hard work, and the human rights organization also doing very well. But the problem is government like very slow, and there is no like united action. It's very sad. For example, that yes, like U.S. recognize that it's a crime against humanity and the genocide, and then Canada, and then like Netherlands. But the problem is we should take the real action to stop Chinese government. Yes, it is genocide. What should we do? It's like Chinese government are committing genocide. It means that they are criminal. But the like those world governments are shaking hands with the criminals. Who are you? Who are you? You are shaking hands with criminals. Like, is it possible that we call somebody criminal and then talk and then do business with somebody? Is it normal? No.
Well, speaking of that, there is this ongoing, I guess you'd call it a debate with governments around the world about whether to label what's happening to the Uyghurs as genocide. The Trump administration said it was genocide. The Canadian Parliament recently did the same thing as well. However, Trudeau and the Trudeau cabinet basically kind of refused to come out and say it themselves. The Joe Biden administration is still reviewing whether to call it genocide. Australia just recently voted to not call it a genocide. And I think what you say what you said about shaking hands with these criminals, that really ties into the fundamental issue here, because a lot of countries do business with China, and you can't maintain normal relations with a country that is committing genocide.
Yeah. Like if you claim that it's a genocide, and how can we treat China as a normal trade partner and a normal business partner? We should take some action. And that action, like the accusation and this kind of claiming and declaration will not stop Chinese government. And another thing that last year, if I'm not wrong, it's about December, DW reported that more than 900,000 Uyghur kids are in children's camp, like boarding school. And recently we received the TikTok video that Uyghur kids ashamed of talking to Uyghur, even teacher asked her to do. Like, yes, we can wait, we can discuss and we can debate, but the problem is those kids lost their identity, losing their identity. And the people are losing their, not the culture, we forget about the culture, losing their dignity, losing their human honor. I don't know why we debate like this, and why we talk is it true or is it something like that? And yeah, can we go and investigate? If we cannot investigate, it means that there's something are hiding. European Union asked Chinese government to open the door, and it's impossible for them. Even World Health Organization cannot investigate China. And how can we investigate about human rights issue?
Or like the BBC that got a tour of the camp, one of the camps, and the Uyghurs are singing and dancing and having a great time.
Yeah, of course. If even we invited, we can see different because it's government owned everything. Yeah, but my understanding that people who have never experienced concentration camp, and it's hard for them to understand what concentration camp is, and people never live it in China, and it's hard to understand what China is. For example, that I'm living in Norway, people in Norway feel that Chinese government is the same government as Norwegian government.
What?
Yeah. It's really hard. It's really hard to make people understand that no, it is different. It is criminal group. It's not the government. It's criminal group. They're abusing the Chinese people, and it's not the normal it's not the normal government you are thinking about. But it's really hard. It's really hard to make people understand, and it's really hard to make those politicians understand. What are you dealing with is not the one, for example, that for Norway, it's not the country as Britain. It's not the country as New Zealand. It's different. But the problem is it's really hard. One is, I think it's a money issue. And another, it's yes, we have this danger, but it's not feel that way. Yes, it is danger, something like that. It's just common issue. But the problem is it's hard to convince them that we are losing people. We are losing their minds. We are losing their dignity. So yes, maybe we can think this way. Yeah, it's not our country, and the Chinese government doing that way. But the problem is, after a few years, Uyghur become criminalized, and they become criminal in the future, because those kids without parents living there. I stayed with, I studied on the criminals. Most of them lost their parents. Most of them are anti-society. If you treat an ethnic group as a criminal, they can become criminal in the future. Yeah, because they feel that I'm not normal. Like the Han Chinese are green, pass everywhere, and I'm red. Yes, I'm red. I will be the red. It's the trouble to the world in the future. At least psychologically, we will condemn Uyghur that we are watching, and we are taking care of. Yes, we are taking action. It's important, at least psychologically.
Well, I think that's why the genocide designation is so important, because then you won't have like your average citizen of Norway or the US still thinking in their minds, oh, the Chinese government is like any other government. Because once the population knows, oh no, this is a regime that's committing genocide, it completely changes the calculation.
Yes, of course. Yeah, that's why I think like media will play a really important role, and it's important to talk. It's important to explain, and yeah.
Well, as you mentioned, money is a big issue. We have international corporate. So we talked about how Xinjiang is basically a surveillance nightmare state. A lot of that surveillance equipment is the result of Western companies. To this day, you have Nike and Apple trying to lobby against the Uyghur forced slave
Uyghur forced labor bill.
The Uyghur forced labor bill, because they don't want to risk their supply chains that probably go through China, and probably have Uyghur slave labor somewhere in there.
Yes. Recently, I received the gift from Telia, Norwegian telecommunication company. And the gift is from China. It's Huawei. Huawei presented me the gift. Huawei produced the camera and developed the app and recognized Uyghur, and then Huawei sent me the present gift. And I talked to the telecommunication company. What are you doing? I am the victim of Huawei, and why are you sending me this? He didn't even ask me, do you want me or not? Why are you sending me this? It's the same logic. Like, it's cheap. It's a gift, like 10 cents or like $10, something like that. Yeah, we can give gift to. This is the mentality of businessmen. This is the mentality of the giant business. Yeah, we are earning money and something like that. But the problem is, we are human beings. Not only the customer, we have heart, we have feeling, we have dignity. I hope the world community think this way. We are not only customer. We are not always consume something. We have heart, we have feeling. If somebody being beaten, we cannot stay without saying anything. If somebody being tortured, being killed, we have to, because we are human beings.
And then I just think about Disney filming Mulan in Xinjiang in their movie, thanking the public security bureaus that are involved in doing what they're doing to your people. And it's just insane that's...
Yeah, it is few kilometers away. It is few kilometers away of concentration camp. People, like when you drive there, you can see the fence of the concentration camp. Didn't they see it? And the camera every 500 meters, every 200 meters, there's a camera watching you. Do you feel? Don't you feel it? You film the movie and then they go back and without saying anything, and I don't know, they are all blind or I don't know.
Well, I think that's why the genocide label is so important, because then you can't reasonably have Disney filming in a country that has concentration camps. Amazon and IBM can't be buying cameras from Chinese companies like Hikvision, which supply the cameras for the labor camps. Everything, the whole international order falls apart if you actually label it genocide.
Yes, it is. This genocide, this label is the crucial point. Yeah, it will save Uyghur, and it will help Uyghur diaspora in the free world, and it will save our conscience.
Well, thank you for joining us today and sharing this story. It's important to get this message out. As I understand it, you're working on a new book.
Yeah, I wrote in Uyghur, and I published in Uyghur first. It's already published, and in Uyghur, and I published in Turkish version, and my editors are working on English version. And I don't know, we finished editing in May, and maybe it after finish the book, it depends on the businessman because it's still a business. Yeah, like which business company accept it, and when they will publish, and this is another business. Yeah.
But you've still been very active getting the word out about what's happening to Uyghurs, and that's very important. It's crucial.
Thank you. It is like for me, talk to the media, talk to the people, and explain what's happening there. It is the treatment of my psychological trauma. Without that, without doing this, how can you feel you are living? Yeah. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I know that's difficult, but thank you.
Yeah, like history will record everything. Yeah. At the end, we will see.
Amen to that. Well, thank you again for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure having you on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I don't think that a lot of people would have the same kind of mental fortitude that Abduweli did.
Yeah, just it's only 20 minutes of being electrocuted, and then they run out of batteries.
Yeah, they got to recharge the cattle. Oh my God. Or
That's
like,
insane.
if you can survive torture for 3 months,
Yeah,
it's just, yeah, I mean,
get used to the fragrance of the toilet.
I just can't imagine. And the reason I asked him too what the misunderstanding what he thought the misunderstanding was between the Chinese Communist Party and like the Uyghurs is because like that's the tragedy of it in a way, right? Where like you think that surely there can't be this much evil. Like surely it can't they aren't actually trying to extinguish us as a people.
Yeah, this is the 21st century. This kind of thing doesn't happen anymore.
And yeah, like you said, like we've heard this from multiple dissidents where like you're like, when we talked to Fang Zhen, like he had his legs cut off because he was run over by a tank during the Tiananmen Square massacre. Or, we've interviewed like Falun Gong practitioners who have all said like they just thought it was a misunderstanding.
And if you explain it, obviously it's going to go away.
Yeah, like, the students in the Tiananmen Square, they're like, the government will help us. The government will change. The Communist Party we can have freedom,
Well, I think that's a big problem with the international community and international business is that they also are kind of operating under this worldview of like there can't be this kind of evil. Surely it's not what it seems. You just can't accept it.
Well, especially because, I've had conversations with friends where they were like, wait, China doesn't have elections? They have a president. Like, it's just the way that we talk about the Chinese Communist Party. We don't even say the Chinese Communist Party, right? Like, we do all the time, constantly for this reason that nobody talks about it. But, like, in general, like, you just do not talk about the fact that this is an authoritarian regime that's killing people.
A truly evil regime.
I mean,
that word needs to be used more. The Chinese Communist Party is evil.
I mean, they are committing evil acts. So I think like we don't like there's this like hesitation about using like good and evil or something like that. Because,
not with me.
Well, I mean, but like there's no way that you can say that what they're doing is not evil. So it's just.
And that hesitation makes so many people complicit with the evil.
Well, I think because like we don't talk about that part. Like Abduweli was totally right when he was like, well, like the Norwegian people, they just cannot imagine that like it's not just another normal government, or like the
And then they give him a
politicians.
Huawei.
Well, I mean the politicians, right? Like they just don't really know. You treat China like any other country at the UN.
Norway wants China to buy their salmon.
Yeah, like you just sure they're a little touchy, they get upset and they cut off the salmon imports or whatever. But like there's just no like recognition, like that's why there's, like you said several times, that the genocide thing is such a big deal, and why there's so much hesitancy and like stonewalling about
You're
it.
forced to confront the fact that the Chinese Communist Party is evil.
Or the fact that we're going to say that they're committing genocide, but we still want to do business with them.
We
Like
care more about
yeah,
money.
That's the other option, is like, yeah, they're doing evil, but we are going to help them do evil.
Who says evil's all that bad?
Yeah. So I think I don't think, see, like, I think the people of the world would actually not stand for that, which is the reason why they don't want to use the word genocide. Because if they thought that, like, you could use the word genocide and then it wouldn't be a big deal, then it wouldn't be so touchy, right?
Yeah. So I hope the Biden administration does formally say it's genocide. I hope Trudeau wises up. I hope I'm very disappointed in Australia saying it's not genocide, whatever reasoning they gave for that. Yeah. So the takeaway from this is you're not a piece of toilet paper, and the Chinese Communist Party is evil. Call it the Communist Party and that they're evil. Tell everyone. Right? Thanks for watching China Unscripted. I'm Chris Chappell.
I'm Shelley Zhang.
And I'm Matt Ganesta.
Evil!